Hello, this is Sonia from the Unwinding Studio. So this is really a qualifying video to see if you can tolerate this, if your body can tolerate this without massive flares. So some of you might just need to be here for a little while, and I might need to build a cohort for like the more sensitive side of this sensitive spectrum, and then people who can tolerate this more. So you have three options in this video: a soft ball, which I put one on my Amazon list. They're like $7, I think. You have to blow it up with a straw. That's how you know it's like squishy, and then you can have different inflation. I just can't blow it up more than this. The other option is I like the 4-inch yoga block. I do also have 3-inch yoga block. If you're a smaller person, you might prefer a 3-inch yoga block. Two of them might be better than one. This is something you're going to go back to using as a prop. So it's not going to be, you're going to progress out of any of these things. So they're not the worst things to have. And then the other thing that you can do is a towel. So if I opened it up the long way, I folded it into thirds and then I rolled it up. But it just depends on your bath towel, the size you want, and what part of your body you're going to do, and how sensitive you are. So the breath that we're going to do are 3 different breaths. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, inhale through the mouth, and then exhale through the mouth. It just works many different systems in many different ways, and it might help to kind of focus, because if you're anything like me, my mind wanders. And so the more I can think of counting breaths in and out and then focusing on the 3 of them, I just tend to be a little bit better with that. So I'm going to start with the ball. This is more sensitive people, more fascia. Like people more like fibromyalgia or something. The towel might be a little harder than this, and then the block would kind of be the next step. But the block is hard, but it's flat, so it redistributes the fascia differently than this. They're all different, and as I keep progressing on, even outside of these, they're all different. And I then start to use other things as props because my body gets tired of holding it up, my body up, and so you're going to come and put the ball into your lower back, and you're going to come back up into the wall. So you can lean back into the wall. Your choice of how much pressure you have. So you're just going to come and breathe here. In through the nose, out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the mouth, and then out through the mouth. So I want this too. First of all, this is not medical knowledge. Medical knowledge is almost taking the power out of you and you put it into a doctor. Great to get diagnosis, great to learn about your body, great to get more information on yourself. But now what do you do with it? And that's kind of where I come in, is I'm teaching you to be on your own. This is how you pay attention to your body. When your body hurts, this is your safe space. And then you build up day by day, year by year. And it's something I do regularly, and my body feels pretty fantastic most of the time. So I'm just trying to get you in touch with your body. How does it feel? If there's any no's and your gut's saying no, you move on. You don't question it. You do less pressure. I'm starting with sitting up just to kind of cover my butt. This ball might be too soft for some people, and if you've already done some fascia, you might prefer something more like a block, or you can then start to look at the orange and black ball that I use, and even the wood that I worked with a wood maker to make, because I just needed something harder than all of these things to get to the deep bone stuff. All right, so now we're going to move the ball up. So I'm here, I was here, it was touching the floor, but really I'm just doing 3 different spots, and at your own time, you can do 3 different spots or 2 different spots. So I'm just going to come here. And I'm just leaning back, and then I'm going to take a breath. The 3 breaths. If you're a slouchy person, you might need to have the towel or block underneath you to lift that sacrum and pelvis up, because you can't necessarily hold it. So you can close your eyes, you can keep them open, in through the nose, out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the mouth, and out through the mouth. Now you could hold this longer, but we're moving on. So I'm going to bring it up higher now. It's up on my back. I feel like I have to move away a little bit in order to lean back. Otherwise, I feel like I was going to dump into my pelvis a little bit more, and my SI joint is my lifelong teacher. So I'm just breathing here, in through the nose, out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the mouth, out through the mouth. Now, also, some of you might not be able to sit too well. You could do this on bed. You could do it back against a baseboard. You could do it on your couch. That's where some of you might need to be. Sit up on a yoga block, bolster. Then we're just going to put it gently in the back of the neck. And I don't want you to kind of slouch down here. I want you to kind of stay lifted, and you're just gently going in there. So what we're working on is do the breath work, and I'm going to talk. I'm doing compression therapy. What we're really waiting for is osmosis, the exchange of water through compression to get into the fascia more. So you have to be still. You cannot be rolling around, because that doesn't create enough compression in order for the water to come out through the fascia. In through the nose, out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the mouth and out through the mouth. So the next step I would do is then you could then also do this lying down if you wanted, but I'm starting with the more sensitive niche. The next one you could do on the couch really well, or if you had like a wedge or a diagonal, it could be a little better than me being here against the wall. But what I'm doing is just putting it to the side of the chest. We do have a horizontal fascia band here. It is the base of our chest. And so I'm just on the back side of it. And I'm going to breathe here, the 3 breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the mouth, out through the mouth. And then I'm going to turn a little bit more so that I'm more under the armpit. I'm just going to find a space for this arm. And then my head is leaning against the wall. I don't have a ton of weight on my hand, just because I know it's a lot of like wrist stuff. If you have a towel nearby, you can also kind of tuck that and put it under your neck to support it. Do the 3 breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the mouth, out through the mouth. Okay, so we're going to do the other side, but I didn't say this and I want to say this now. What we're trying to do is keep the shape of your spine straight. If you can't maintain your straight spine, your neutral spine, your happy spine, because some people want to be here, you might need to prop yourself up so it's not so much muscle, so you can release into these things. So that's why on the side, if my head was going to be here, this is when I might just tuck a towel in to kind of like support it to keep it up, because there's just only so much you can do. But if I were just to pause here for a second and just notice how my body feels from side to side, it's just interesting. It just feels lighter, less feeling, whereas this side just has that, there's like an energy to it, like a tension to it, whereas just the little bit that we just did on the other side, I actually feel a big difference. And you can probably see how my shoulders are a little different, which they might be crooked anyway, but this one's going up more and I'm getting in here more. And this one really feels like it's a little easier to go into breathing into the diaphragm. So I like to use fascia to release, because I've just gotten really sick of keep your shoulders down, relax your shoulders. when really it should be engage your armpit muscles, get into the breathing muscles better, and kind of redirecting versus telling people something that they can't really do. Like they would probably do it if they could do it, is my view. All right. So we're going to put it lower on the, we're going to be turned. And then just breathing here. However you want your legs to sit. You don't have to recreate me, but don't do any interesting things with your hypermobility, even though you can. I'm just going to grab the towel. And then I'm going to square up probably to a side wall a little bit more and be on the side chest. And then just 3 breaths here. In through the mouth and out through the mouth. All right. It's interesting. That might be super easy. You might feel like I could do so much more. I need to do more. And that might be true, but we really need to be where your fascia is, because if you have really tight fascia in some places, you're going to have more liquid in your body. And we really need to kind of like warm your body and fascia up to putting compression on it, because it could cause a flare. Even the most subtle things that you do, it could cause a flare. Now, the flare isn't necessarily bad because inflammation can help healing, and it can take you almost a month to heal that inflammation, but after, you should actually feel a little bit better. Your range of motion might feel better. You might have less pain. Breathing might make more sense to you. It's just really interesting that you want to kind of track short-term discomfort for long-term progress. Whereas some people just get a flare living and then they just lay down, and you could spend your whole life laying down and really nothing happens. I was there for many years. And then fascia really is what helped me to realize I can do something, and I could do hours doing something, and my body actually feels really good. So the next step we're going to do is take this ball onto the ground and continue doing, or the towel or the block. So this is when you might want a towel for your head, depending on how if you slouch a lot, or if you have a flat back, you might not need a head pad, but you just don't want to lie here with neck tension. You're going to lift your hips up and then come put the ball on here. Now, if you have the option of the block, I personally prefer the block here because I feel like it actually helps my sacrum a little bit more. But as I'm just lying here, this does feel really nice that I'm actually kind of like feeling this relax a little bit, which feels nice. But the cool part with the block is you can have it different directions. But now I feel like I do feel the opening up here, and then I also feel the release in my sacrum. Now there's a little nuance here. I have an unstable sacrum. When I lie down, it takes me a minute to be able to sit upright, and sometimes I have to kind of guide my sacrum forward. So I don't necessarily want to hold it here too long. But this gives me the stability and feedback, so then if I wanted to straighten one leg and hug one knee in, it helps me feel the stretch here, whereas with the ball, I don't feel that. And then that imbalance with the ball, some people don't like that imbalance because they just have gravitational discomfort, and this is when the block might be a little better. I don't feel much on this leg, so I just don't do this as long. I know my other leg is more of the tight psoas issue, and so I just, I might do less on the leg that doesn't need it and then a little bit more, or twice on the leg that might need it more. All right, so lift up and come down. Now, if you're someone with more vascular issues, you might just want to hang out here for a minute. I have low blood pressure issues and POTS. If I come up too fast, I'll just get like a headache for the rest of the day. And so I don't suggest it. But block, towel, ball, whatever, and you're going to come here. If you're really loosey, you might want to put the towel underneath here to kind of like keep the arch. And then I have the ball here. My hands are behind the head, and I'm just stretching back, taking breaths in and out through the nose, in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the mouth, out through the mouth. All right, then we're gonna turn on to the side. So the towel is helping me to keep lifted so I'm not super swayed. So my back is more in a straight line. It is a little bit releasing the fascia right at my hips on the floor. And then I have it kind of in the space between my hip and ribs. I'm okay with this. And then I'm here and I'm kind of releasing it. So I'm kind of getting a double fascia release. If you have lung issues, if this does not feel good, use your intuition. If you are just questioning it, you do it sitting. But this is about you and learning what your body likes and not, and how your body does with this. I'm supporting my head. What might be better is if I maybe had another towel to tuck here. This is when I actually might use a yoga block to support here, and then just breathing. If I put the block a little lower, it might create more of a side bend here, and then I might just get a nice opening in the side that's not on the ball. And this is when we keep going over the breath, and you might realize you can breathe correctly in some postures. So it's not you don't know how to do it. We're trying to find out, where does your body need to be in order for it to behave correctly, for lack of a better way to put it. The body is actually pretty incredible for its innate ability to repair and know how to work when we're in the right place. We are going to switch and do the other side. It would be easiest just to flip over, but you don't need to see the back of me. So, and just take a second. Feel that space. It's just the pressure can override the pain receptors. I just find it just feels so good. Okay, I'm just doing this to support the lower part, the ball here, a block or a ball. Doing the 3 different breath patterns. All right, you can stay lying like that. I'm going to come up to kind of wrap this up. So that's just the basics of where to start. Eventually, you might be more efficient at it, that you can do it in less time. But if you don't feel good doing most of this, then you need to keep working on this. Maybe be in touch with the next steps of a little bit harder ball. I don't like lacrosse balls. I don't like hard stuff. The ball pushes too much. So I actually, surprisingly, like the yoga block a little better, and I can always turn it to an edge and do some, get it a little harder. So one thing I do a lot is I just have the yoga block down on a coffee table out, and then I have my calf on it. And then what I can do is flex and point, because the calves are really tight on most people. And your calves are talked about like being your second heart, because there's so many veins, arteries, blood vessels, like everything down there. And so the more that we increase circulation down there, the better the circulation is going to come up and through our heart and through our body. It just helps me if I want to put some down. It seems to help me not necessarily hyperextend my legs so much, but I'm not on the higher range of hypermobility. I'm on the lower range of hypermobility, but it still bothers me a lot. And so you could always like put it higher. You can come up and do the legs a little bit more. You can try it with other things. You might have a coffee table that has a little lip that might be really nice. You might find a railing with a bench that you can kind of work. You can kind of get creative with how you can release the fascia. Because the more that you spend time doing this, the better you're going to prepare yourself for if you get other work. So if you see a massage therapist, you might be putting out these small fires, and then they might be able to kind of get in deeper to release stuff. If you go get physical therapy or you do weight training, I just find the body so much better prepared and clear in order to do better biomechanics. And to this date, I have still not figured out the best at home workout with weights because the way gravity hits. And so, really, eventually, I'm going to do the Pilates bar resistance band because you can attach it to like a door because you want to kind of like get the back. Whereas from just weights and resistance bands, you're really going to emphasize here. And I think everyone already does that a lot, and we don't need more. And so we really need to strengthen the back. And so let me know if you have questions. Email me might be the best way because right now my social media is just having a ton of messages, and so I might lose it sometimes, but just feel free to let me know. Stay here with this stuff as long as you want, and then eventually I'm going to have the live cohort of stuff, and then I'll have kind of like as you go, as you want 4-week courses, which they would be an hour a week, but you should be doing this a lot. I would say at first, maybe do it twice a week. And then if you know that you're not going to have a ton of inflammation, you can maybe increase it to 3 times. And then we start to add more parts of your body. We start to get in a little bit deeper. We start to get into harder things because we want to change that fascia. This is what I liked of the cellulite myth from Ashley Black. Although I don't think we should start with her system if we're hypermobile and especially vascular stuff, but you can have cellulite kind of tell you how the fascia is bound up in different ways. And so sometimes it's a really fluidy to really hard strands. And then the more you compress it and have that osmosis, that water starts to get into the hard bands a little bit more, making that a little bit softer. So it might be more like a honey to a harder plastic. And then eventually that honey might thicken a little bit more, and then that hard plastic might be softer plastic, and you don't have that like shocking rollover of muscle. You don't have that pain in your joints because really the muscles and the fascia are the issue, and the joints are really just the symptom most of the time. I still believe in some joints needing to be replaced, so I'm not saying that this is the only issue, but I think we blame where we feel too much, and I want to kind of empower you guys to realize that you can do this on your own and it's up to you, and no one's going to come after you to say you need to do it more, but this is up to you. This is what you can do. And it can really start to help with that hypermobility, that muscle coil, them moving more, not being so either muscle on or off. And some of you, I need to say, be a B student. Don't be an A student, because sometimes we try so hard and don't look like it, and you're all or nothing, and people don't realize that until you start to get in it, and people are so intense wanting to try and feel something that you actually need to back off a little bit. But this is the place to help you feel. So let me know if you have any questions, and hope this helps.